Indiana Fever admins. And they was probably instructed by the Indiana Fever front office to do this, but we're going to talk about this. So they released a series of posts 3 hours ago. We're going to get through them one by one. It goes on to say, get to know head coach Stephanie White in celebration of Women's History Month. Head coach Stephanie White. And there she go right there. Then it goes on to list her career highlights, which is nothing. Stephanie White was an average player.
The Indiana Fever front office made a deliberate move recently, releasing a series of posts highlighting head coach Stephanie White in recognition of Women's History Month. The timing was not accidental. A wave of criticism had been building around White's future with the franchise, and this public push from the organization signals fairly clearly that she is not going anywhere anytime soon. The posts walked through her background as a player and coach,
which is nothing. Stephanie White was an average player. Like, she had some accolades here and there, you know what I'm saying? You know, like the 95 Gatorade Player of the Year Award, that was a big one. USA Today Player of the Year Award. But you got to realize the level of competition ain't what it is today. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the WNBA. Like, these young ladies that's coming into the league and playing in college right now, they're top next level, bro. Like, scoring records being set, you know, so no disrespect to.
On the playing side, White earned the 1,995 Gatorade Player of the Year and USA Today Player of the Year honors, along with a national championship at Purdue in 1999. Those were legitimate accomplishments for their era, though the standard of competition across women's basketball has risen dramatically since then. The college game today is producing players who are rewriting record books at a pace that makes the landscape of the mid-90s nearly unrecognizable by comparison. Her coaching resume runs deep.
No disrespect to Stephanie White and her career accolades. It's just that the level of competition ain't what it was. You know, well, ain't what it is like it is today. Now, she did win a national championship back in 1999. With Purdue, which was legendary. Then in 95. So all of her main accolades came from 95, which was a lifetime ago. I will say about 30 damn years ago. Now, here's something that stuck out to me was a picture that they posted with Aaliyah Ball.
Assistant roles at Ball State, Kansas State, Toledo, the Chicago Sky, and Indiana before taking her first head coaching job with the Fever from 2015 to 2016. She then led the Connecticut Sun from 2023 to 2024, earning WNBA Coach of the Year honors that season. She returned to Indiana as head coach in 2025 and added a Commissioner's Cup championship to her record. What the Post notably left out was Vanderbilt.
So now, here's something that stuck out to me was a picture that they posted with Aaliyah Boston and Stephanie White, pretty much signaling and indicating to us that this is their gal. Pouring into people, inspiring, providing opportunities, and helping instill confidence and belief in themselves. That's a very gratifying part of what I get to do every day. Then there's this career highlights as a coach right here. Ball State assistant, 03 to 04. Kansas State assistant, 04 to 05. Toledo assistant.
That chapter sits at the center of most fan frustration with White, and glossing over it did not go unnoticed. She was brought in as the Vanderbilt women's basketball head coach in 2016 and spent 5 seasons there. The results were rough. A 46-83 overall record, a 13-54 mark against SEC competition, 0 NCAA tournament appearances, and multiple seasons where the program won fewer than 10 games, including 1 year with only 7 wins.
Toledo assistant, 05 to 07. Chicago Sky assistant, 07 to 010. Indiana Fever assistant, 2011 through 2014. Indiana Fever head coach, 2015 to 16. And Connecticut Sun head coach, 23 to 24. Indiana Fever head coach, 25 to present. 2012 WNBA champion. 2023 WNBA coach of the year. 2023 WNBA All-Star Game coach, 2025 WNBA Commissioner Cup champion. What they left out of here.
The program never broke through in a competitive conference, and in 2021 Vanderbilt moved on from her, citing the need for a new direction. The full picture, though, is that White took over a struggling program in a brutal conference and never found her footing. When she returned to the WNBA environment she knew better, her coaching ability showed up again. The Suns' 2023 Coach of the Year recognition was earned in a genuinely competitive league, and it helped reset the conversation around her credentials.
Commissioner Cup champion. What they left out of here that many people is not talking about is her stint at Vanderbilt. See, it's the Vanderbilt stint that really have fans up in arms, because that stint there is pretty interesting. So during her time at Vanderbilt, right, former WNBA coach and Purdue legend was
The Fever's social media post included a quote from White about the value of mentorship and passing knowledge down to players and younger coaches, a sentiment that reinforced the organization's message about the kind of culture she is trying to build around a roster that now centers on Caitlin Clark. Fan reaction in the comments was not particularly warm. Several supporters pushed back on her offensive approach, specifically raising concerns about Clark being kept off the ball too often and the pace of play being too conservative. Others brought up her Vanderbilt record directly.
right. Former WNBA coach and Purdue legend was hired as Vanderbilt women head coach back in 2016. Now, if they got all of this on here, why we ain't talking about 2016? Now, at Vanderbilt, she went 46 of 83. She was 13 of 54 against SEC teams. No NCAA tournament appearance. The program struggled heavily in the SEC during her tenure. She took over a rebuilding program in 2016, multiple losing seasons.
A few responses crossed into territory that had nothing to do with basketball. The overall thread reflected a fan base that is deeply invested in the direction of the franchise and not fully sold on the coach guiding it. The organization clearly anticipated some of that pushback and posted anyway. That choice alone says something about how firmly White's position is locked in heading into the season.
On her tenure, she took over a rebuilding program in 2016, multiple losing seasons, some as low as 7 damn wins. Could you imagine being a coach winning 7 games in college basketball? See, that's the Stephanie White everybody don't want to talk about. Now, in the 2020 to 21 season, it was impacted by COVID plus injuries. Now, in 2021, she was fired from Vanderbilt after 5 seasons. Vanderbilt said that the
two significant developments are shaping the early stages of the WNBA offseason, and they point in very different directions, one toward roster stability and one toward growing pressure on the domestic league calendar. On the free agency front, Breanna Stewart has made her decision public, and it is unambiguous. She will return to the New York Liberty and has stated outright that she has no intention of scheduling meetings with other franchises, despite holding unrestricted free agent status.
Meetings, and that's all there is to it. So she's coming right out and saying, I'm not even going to look at other teams. I'm not going to look at other teams at all in all of this. I'm coming back to the Liberty, and look, this is awfully convenient to have Breanna Stewart have some news during this same video in which I tell you
the commitment appears total, not a negotiating position, not a waiting game, but a settled conclusion. The Liberty, who have also been working to retain Stewart at maximum priority, now have one of their 2 cornerstone players confirmed for next season. Las Vegas, meanwhile, is taking a similar posture with A'ja Wilson, making it clear the Aces are fully committed to building around her.
News during this same video in which I tell you, Project B, well, it seems they're adding more players. They're shifting their start date. Not good news for Unrivaled. All the while, Unrivaled's headed into the last year of their media rights deal with TNT Sports, with Warner Brothers, who just got bought by Paramount.
The more layered story involves Project B, the emerging international women's basketball league, which continues to expand its roster and reshape the landscape around Unrivaled in the process. The latest player to join Project B is Awa Pham, a prospect who multiple outlets are now projecting as a potential #1 overall selection in the upcoming WNBA draft on April 13th. Pham plays in Spain and carries relatively low name recognition in the American market, but those who have watched her recently, including during World Cup qualifying, describe someone whose game translates immediately.
Got bought by Paramount. Economics is going to be a thing. And now they're going to land. And you see this headline Annie Constable put up. The projected top. People are saying that Awa Pham may be the #1 overall pick in this WNBA draft. And she is now signed with Project B. Ooh, all right. Yikes. So what?
She is a big who can finish at the rim with consistency, hits layups and finger rolls with touch, and has the length and size that the league has been looking for at that position for years. Project B co-founder and chief basketball officer Alana Beard described her as someone with a profile to become a global star, and the footage available supports a level of optimism around her ceiling. Project B now has 13 signed players, with the league structured around 6 teams of 11 players for its inaugural season.
So what is that? Kelsey Mitchell, Nika Agumake, Sophie Cunningham, Alyssa Thomas, Jonquel Jones, Jewel Lloyd, Camila Cardoso. This is going to get interesting. I did the math earlier. There's over 50 players that hadn't signed yet. And now we knew, look, the CBA and
other names attached to the league include Kelsey Mitchell, Nafisa Collier, Sophie Cunningham, Alyssa Thomas, Jonquel Jones, Jewel Lloyd, and Camila Cardozo, a roster that reflects genuine star power across multiple positions. Financial specifics from Pham's contract were not released, though the league has previously been reported to be offering multi-million-dollar salaries to attract top talent. One of the more consequential updates involves the league's start date.
The CBA and added games in the WNBA was going to slide the season down from the WNBA. Project B took care of that. They just slid their season down a little bit. So this was the comments made right here. By the way, the latest signee may go #1 overall in the WNBA draft on April 13th. That's 13 days away, folks. Quote, she has a lot of potential to be the next global superstar. Project B.
Originally expected to tip off in November, Project B has shifted its opening to December. The move appears directly tied to the WNBA's new CBA, which extends the domestic season. The latest possible end date under the new agreement is November 21st in the near term, pushing to November 30th by 2028. Project B's flexibility on scheduling was framed by Beard as intentional and collaborative, with the organization expressing confidence in how it is positioned relative to the WNBA calendar rather than in conflict with it.
To be the next global superstar, Project B co-founder, chief basketball officer Alana Beard told Front Office Sports. A lot of people don't know her because she's in Spain, but I can tell you just from my impressions of her, she's going to surprise a lot of people. We watched her play. We just saw her play in the World Cup qualifiers. She damn well looks the part. Before I decided to do this video, I went back and just looked at some film of her. You want to talk about a big that can actually hit a...
The league's tour schedule is also coming into clearer view. Valencia has been confirmed as the second stop, running March 12th through March 21st, with Tokyo set as the final destination from March 26th through April 4th. 7 total stops are expected across Asia, Europe, and the Americas, though the remaining locations have yet to be announced.
You want to talk about a big that can actually hit a layup in this, which is something that this league sorely does not have? Yeah, she's hitting layups, finger rolls, you name it. And she's long. She's got size. Details of Pham's contract was not disclosed, but Front Office Sports had previously reported the league was offering WNBA stars multi-million-dollar salaries. They've got 13 players.
All of this lands at a difficult moment for Unrivaled, the rival domestic league that has positioned itself as the primary off-season destination for WNBA players. Unrivaled's television ratings have been a consistent concern, and recent comparisons put the numbers in stark context. The lowest-rated game in the USFL's most recent weekend drew nearly 200,000 more viewers than Unrivaled's championship broadcast. With its TNT Sports media rights deal entering its final year, and with Warner Bros. Discovery now in the process of being acquired by Paramount, the economic calculation around renewing that arrangement is unlikely to get simpler.
The league will field 6 teams of 11 players in its inaugural season. The start date, first to be expected in November, will actually be in December, according to sources familiar with the league's business operations. Since the WNBA CBA was finalized, questions have swirled around potential conflict between the WNBA's end of season and the beginning of Project B. The last possible end date for the WNBA season under the new CBA.
Project B, backed by investors whose identities have attracted scrutiny with questions about the funding sources still circulating, is now pulling in players who would otherwise have been central to Unrivaled's appeal. The projection that the likely number 1 overall pick in the next WNBA draft has already committed to Project B before even hearing her name called is a notable development for both leagues. For Unrivaled, it represents another signal that the competition for the sport's top talent is intensifying well beyond what a single domestic offseason league can absorb.